headed north through Utah on the I-15 to Harrisburg Ghost Town. But we're going to start our journey in Quail Creek to give you a little bit of back history as to why Harrisburg is where it is and why it's a ghost town. Come along with us.
Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. Today we are standing in front of a beautiful reservoir, the reservoir of Quail Creek. Now you may be wondering, why does this have, I guess, a relationship with Harrisburg Ghost Town? And one of the biggest reasons is because Harrisburg was known as Harrisville. And Harrisville laid right here below this water. And what happened, it flooded so much in the farmland that it was not able to be, I guess, occupied. When it did flood, the residents had to move. And when the residents moved, they moved slightly to the north to Harrisburg, which is now a ghost town due to, well, grasshopper plague, Indian raids, and of course, lack of water. But they didn't know that eventually there would be a giant reservoir here that supplied water to many of the residences here in southern Utah. Come along with us and join the adventure. Okay, so we've made our way just around the bend behind the hill that you see behind me. Right up there, that is where Quail Creek was, and that is where Harrisburg used to be. But of course now that is the area that's underwater where the residents used to be. But what has happened now is Harrisburg moved right over there from that little valley, right, where the water runs, right over here to what is now an RV park. Now this just rests east of I-15. So again, this is just a little bit of ghost town history, because those pioneer buildings and the Adams house, which has been restored, is right across the 15 on that side. So what's going to happen is we're going to show you all the pioneer buildings that are left, share some history with you of Harrisburg. And what that's going to do is show you these amazing buildings and the history and the relationship and proximity to Silver Reef Ghost Town, the last video we put up, and also Leeds, where the CCC camp is, where many of the stones from the buildings from Silver Reef were used to build those new houses. Come along with us. We're going to head on down the road. Okay, so where we're at right now is really like an RV park. And what they did was they built this RV park right here. And in this RV park is also the Harrisburg Cemetery. It's really something to see because it's right in the middle of all the homes. But right here is the old pioneer homes, what's left of it. And this is a huge part of the ghost town. As you can see, Harrisburg Estates is built right on it. And those are all the locations. Now there's some tiny homes here again and RVs. But right here on the road, this amazing old pioneer home. And you can see it says right on it, historic house. Now this was a fairly large pioneer home. You can see how beautiful it was constructed. The window frame and casings, chimneys on both ends of the house. And again, this one did have a cellar below it. I'm going to go over here on the other angle. It's really fenced off by this split rail fence. As you can see, no trespassing by the order of Hurricane Police. So I'm not going to do that. I'll just lean over a little bit. But there's that basement area, as you can see. Right there, would have went under the house. And that's, of course, what a lot of the pioneer homes had. But this one had a really nice stairway going down. Most of them just had some wood. This one's all made out of stone. That's where they would keep a lot of perishables and things that had to be protected and kept a little cooler because it did get very hot here. And it would keep them from freezing in the winter. Right there, the holes above the door, you can see where maybe some timbers came out and made themselves a nice porch right here to begin with. But of course, all that wood probably is fallen down or gone. Rotted maybe, but again, maybe they used it to build other structures when this became a ghost town, because most of these places were almost looted, if you will. They recycled the lumber and a lot of the block to build again in Leeds. So you've got kind of a connection between all these ghost towns and Leeds, which is still a very active town with some of the older buildings in it. can see the sidewall here. This is a very significant building. Looks like it might have had a second story on it, or maybe just an attic. Maybe not. It's probably just had a raised floor. But again, there's probably storage up there. Maybe there was a bedroom up there. You can't tell without the wood on the roofs what it really looked like up there. And again, you can see this old home, and what's left of it, is literally right next to a KOA campground. So they've preserved this very well, keep people from getting in here and graffitiing it and everything. But it's right on a very active road. You can see the timbers there that came through to build that bottom floor, and that would have been the doorway coming in the front, and two here on the sides. Again, all the wood casings are still there. Maybe they redid those, but that's where the basement or root cellar would have been to keep things cool. And that fireplace right there. It's hard to realize that this house was once lived in and decorated. Amazing. I almost think they don't need a fence to keep people out. Look at this cactus. They just surround the whole thing with cactus. They'd be fine. Nobody's going to get in there. Well, that one looks like the window casing's falling out of it. Better get that back in there. Okay, so this is one of the two pioneer homes that are at this location. We're going to go look at the other one next. And then across the highway over there, you can see the beautiful mountains. Right over there is going to be the restored Adams home. It's at the very bottom of the frame. Moving on. As promised, heading down that road to Harrisburg Cemetery. Now, we have one more pioneer building to share with you. But again, I was fascinated is that the I-15 is literally built right over where Harrisburg used to be. And these are all kind of the outskirts. So this cemetery was actually not right in Harrisburg proper, but just on the edge of town. But now it is literally surrounded skull houses. But they weren't here in the beginning. But they're definitely here now, and they had to build them around this cemetery. Original occupants of Harrisburg. The town just dried up, and of course it left this cemetery and the few pioneer homes that are there. There is a giant lizard right over there. Goodness. That's a good-sized lizard. Hope you can see it. It's doing push-ups. Little family plot here surrounded in stone. A lot of old headstones. All right, well, let's go find that next pioneer home. Now you can see what I was talking about earlier. This is that pioneer building, the next one. But look there, the KOA campground sign is right there behind me. And we're gonna walk right up this hill. Historic home, view from the fence. And I understand why, because this one looks like it's a little bit delicate, I guess, compared to the other one. Fairly large poles that made up that roof. So it's still fairly well kept together, but you just can't go in. Those are good size stone for sure. One of the things is when you look at that history, and this place had vineyards, and it's so dry. We mountain bike here as well. It's so dry, I can't imagine having vineyards or anything growing here that needed water. One thing that still grows are still some of the old squash and gourds that the Native Americans were growing. So down by those creek beds, it's still there. That native squash is still there by the creeks. Huge. This must have been like another part of it. As you can see this exterior wall. Well, that was a good sized wall that just evidently fell down or something. Maybe there was a roof line up in here that went over this one. I don't see where it would be, but wow, that's a lot of block. Love to get closer and show you some of the things inside, but literally a couple of the park ranger people are down there in the parking lot. I don't want to get ousted, if you will. But these buildings were fairly big, and I'm glad they've preserved them, because this is really the only two solid structures remaining. Again, since the Adams house has been restored, and the Adams house, you really can't even go in it. It's restored, but I don't know what's inside. You can see those the roof timbers there that are still on the building. I wonder if we could find some original photos. I'll take a look, and if I can find them, I'll put them up. If not, we're just going to have to use our imagination on how this building looked in its heyday. Okay, we've made it west of the 15. This is also part of what Harrisburg was. As you can see, Lisa's taking photos of the whole location. But this is the Osborne B. Adams house. Now, it looks to me like this was built by a New England stonemason. The Adams house and several others in town were built between 1863 and 1865 by Willard G. McMullen. He was a stonemason from Maine, and that's him right there, 1862. Now, as we're walking up here to the Adams house, you can see across the road, maybe a little difficult, but I'm going to point with my finger of location. Right over there below that little mountain is Harrisburg, where we were on the other two homes. And again, all the homes were built, most of them, by that mason. And you can see here the reconstruction of it, all the scaffolding and things when they were working on it. Rehabilitation, rescue the past. That's what it looked like when they got to it. And again, I have never seen inside or had this opened up, but they did have to stabilize the walls and foundation, replacing the shake roof, windows, doors, and replastering and painting the interior. Well, maybe, just maybe, one day we'll be able to get inside that house and see what it looks like, but for now, it looks great on the outside. Now, this one has a lot of the wood casings around it, and a lot of the older homes, they didn't have that, but this one a little bit more ornate. So they kind of preserved what they had, put the casings around it, made it look nice. And there's a lot of lizards out. Of course, all those shutters, I had to check them, see if I could open one, maybe look in a window. Not a chance. They are pretty well tucked and locked, for sure. The block almost looks modern day because it's been restored so nice. Two chimneys, a fireplace at each side of the house. It's amazing to see how crooked the side walls are. They've got that iron bolted, as you can see up there, to keep these walls from falling outward. They just keep tightening those up and making sure those walls are staying sturdy. Now, as I was talking about those Native American gourds and the plants, because they ate a lot of this squash gourd, I can't remember the real name of it, and the corn that they had, maize. So they ate a lot of maize they harvested, and these are the plants that grow those gourds. Now, we were mountain biking in this area, and we found a couple of gourds on the bushes, but I do not see any gourds here. I'm looking to kind of show you, but what I'll do is try to add a photo of the type of gourd that they were growing, and also maize, which of course is a version of corn, but that's what they grew here. And I know the Anasazi and Paiutes and all the Indians in the area, that's what they harvested and grew. This being the back side of the house, this almost looks like a place where you'd hang something out here, like you know, if you had game or something, or had to cure meat or something, maybe, I don't know. The lumber that stuck out of the side of this, unless it was a patio or a covered patio, you can see there was wood came out here, but they're now, of course, broke off or rotted through, and you can see where they've repaired this wall substantially on the backside to keep it together. Now, we talked about Silver Reef, and Silver Reef is going to be just right over there through those foothills. That's the ghost town where all that sandstone mining and silver was done in the last video. But you can see there's the Cosmopolitan restaurant that lives in Silver Reef, the remake of it, and it actually was there back in the day, and that's around circa 1880, and it stands in Silver Reef to this day. But what they did is they did all the farming, and they fed the Silver Reef miners from this location. So That Silver Reef mining camp boomed in 1875 till 88 and produced beef, grain, and Harrisburg farmers sustained the camp. Silver Reef miners paid cash to bring welcome resources and money to an economy based on a barter and trade system. And you can see right there, that's the prospecting and the pioneers of course, Silver Reef. And again, all that farming here happened and fed those miners in Silver Reef. And we'll take a look over here because there was some farming and homesteads right over there. I've got that finger in frame a lot because I've got to make reference on the property as to where those locations would be. So this Adams home, where it's at, in the proximity of it, again, this was all the orchards and places where they grow all the food to feed Silver Reef, which is just over the foothills. But right over here, there's a couple of interesting pieces of history. That little hillside right over there is where the Anasazi ruins are. Now that's where their pit houses were. Now right here at this creek bottom where you see the green down here, that is where they grew the gourds and the maize, and they kept it in those pit houses that are right about there on that foothill. And we put up a video about that earlier. I'll see if I can attach it to this one. It's just a short video on what's up there. So it's definitely, you could see the stonework of the pit houses, and they basically kept all that food in storage. And that was just so many years ago that they did that, those Anasazis, and they found those ruins up there. But I don't even know if they knew about those ruins when they were here farming and keeping cattle and things to grow all that for Silver Reef. Interesting old fact. So this area is known for dino tracks. So all behind me in those mountains up there are dino tracks, and they literally are dinosaur tracks in the stone where the water used to run. So what happened, the water was there and the dinos would walk and put their footprints in the mud, and when it dried up, of course, it made it like cement. So there's dried up creek bed dinosaur footprints there. Anasazi history, prehistoric history, pioneer history, ghost town. Supplying the food in this area for Silver Reef mining, also for the Anasazi Indians used to grow here, and of course the dinos used to feed here, it sounds like. Great facts. Okay, so this is the trail. Now you can see here it says McMullen on it. And you can mountain bike, hike, and ride your horses here. This over here was the McMullen farm. And we're gonna get closer in where they used to farm, and the old rock walls that they put up. The rock walls, like fences that they put up, it must have taken them years to put these rock fences up. There's just tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of rocks that surround these old farmsteads. So we're going to get as close as we can and share that with you on the McMullen Trail for the McMullen farm. So here is the wall for the McMullen farm. These are where the houses were. One of them looks like an old storage building, and one looks like, of course, the foundation for the home with the chimney. Again, the chimney's always the last thing to go because it's the most heavy built structure of the house. We are literally inside the McMullen farm walled off area. I hope we're supposed to be in here. Now we came up here before, we did a quick video on this area and a couple of the buildings, but we didn't get as deep with this as we did before because we started finding a lot of history that tied all of these ghost towns together as one being the supplier to a silver mining district, Silver Reef. And then of course, this one is a ghost town. It was an old farming area, the McMullen farm, and of course, Harrisburg. And this was a very solid little building. Again, probably an area just to keep maybe, you know, perishables and things like that, keep them cool. Those walls are really thick, built like a house, but very tiny. I'd say that's about a 10 by 10. But this area over here is where the house was. All right, so we're just gonna walk around the home and the property here and see what we find. And this is another, looks like about a 12 by 16, 12 by 18 building that was dug into the ground, as you can see. And then the walls have been taken down. Now it's no surprise again that a lot of these blocks may have been taken from. Now the walls were kind of put up, but there's a floor dug down for sure on this. I'm just going to walk over here over this wall, the exterior wall of it, see what we find besides a lizard. It's a lot of stonework. Now there's a lot of stone missing. There's still some on the ground where some of this has fallen down, but again, that leaves me to believe that, like we were told in Silver Reef, the blocks were used to build those CCC camps. Those pioneer days must have been tough. When you stand here and you look at all the beauty in the background, I don't think they had time to look up and see it, because grasshopper plagues, flooding, freezing winters, extremely hot summers, Paiute raids, sickness. There's no doctors out in this area. I mean, this is, you know, pre any existing St. George, Utah, and miles away from the Salt Lake City area in the Utah desert, southern Utah. I can't imagine the things that went on here on a daily basis to survive. Just really primitive back then. And then the shortage of water. If you had a drought, you'd at least have to bring your water from the creek down there. That's if it was running, if you had a good rain. All right, so we're done here at the McMullen farm, but there's something else on property as well. Now there's another piece of history here that doesn't have anything to do with dinosaurs or pioneers or mining or ghost towns. What we have is a giant movie set, and that giant movie set is directly in front of me. And it's from the movie set They Came to Cordura, an old Western movie. And last time we were here, we didn't film it, but we found more remnants of that. A lot of the old plaster chicken wire in the building that was the main set for They Came to Cordura. So moving on, let's go find it. With the McMullen farm behind us, we're going to trek on over to They Came to Cordura movie site. Again, if you ever get a chance to watch the movie, don't know if it would be a great movie or not, if you'd enjoy it, but at least you could reference the movie set on this location. Wildlife struggling in the desert. This is the cross section for Adams and Cordura, and the movie set, as you can see, would be right here because it is referenced Cordura. So the minute you walk up here, you can see that they have this stone wall that went all the way around. You can see part of it here, all still put together. Now they had a fire up here, so they lost a lot of it, as you can see. But here's part of it right here. This would be the walls. And so I just wanted to share this with you again in detail in reference to the Adams house, the farming, the ghost towns, Harrisburg, how all these things live in about a 4-mile proximity of each other. But this set was really large, and it was outside set. So Hollywood set in the middle of the Utah desert, where a lot of old Westerns were filmed. But you can see it right here. The chicken wire and plaster posts that are scorched. And look at all that over there. So this whole pile is that fort where it was. The biggest parts, the walls and the entrance was right over there. I'm going to try and add some photos in here. But I also found another spot where they dumped a lot of this movie set. And it's just beyond us on the outside of the wall. I was walking over there and I realized I was on a tremendous amount of plaster, like all of this. But I think this is just fascinating because this was a movie set, and this was a wall that fell down from that movie set. So all of this was used in that older movie. It's a lot of work. And they still have the fireplace. I guess in the movie there's a set where they were standing in front of this fireplace, fire pit, if you will, right here. Fascinating. You can see because right here is like the hearth with a lizard running right there. Look at that little guy. They're all over out here. But this was a big part of the movie set as well, as they filmed scenes with that. And all those posts, and of course the outsides of the buildings when you come into the fort, all exist right there. So you can see here there's like a walkway, a pathway that was part of the set as well. Hopefully you can see the outline of it there. It kind of goes in a circle. But all that was part of it, and then of course it went right over here where there's another, like something that sticking out of the ground, I guess, for the movie set as they filmed that. And this is like all rock flooring, or maybe the building was built around. See how it's all flat and leveled out? Like a stone floor. So this whole area was used like that, or maybe a courtyard. These are all from scenes of that movie. I'm gonna head over that direction. Beyond that rock wall you see in the distance. Getting closer to that rock wall, as you can see there's kind of an opening right here. And if I'm not mistaken, this is where they were able to enter, and maybe for the movie set to go from here to enter into the fort area through this rock wall. And I'm pretty sure that's the case, because look at this over here. All this references, this is piles of mortar that they used to build the sets. So if you look at it, the fort being behind me, maybe this being the entrance, right over there where Lisa's standing in the distance taking some photos, it's where that fort was. But this almost looks like they would enter, as there's stone on both sides. Look at this pile of movie set. They just dumped it behind this wall. I'm literally walking on like this stucco masonry that they built, and it's all full of chicken wire as well. Into the wall. There's a big flat piece there, like foundation. I hope you find this fascinating as well as, or as much as I do, because to me, this is some Hollywood history that we found out in the desert from that movie. Whenever you can reference that, it keeps a little bit of the history of old Hollywood magic. I'm sure they filmed a lot of that movie inside studios in Hollywood as well. And they just left this to rot in the sun. There's a lot of wood over here. Let's see if that's maybe a doorway or something that they just knocked over. Looks like it. It's kind of framed out. When you look at it from a distance, you can see the framing over here, there, and here. So it probably was a doorway. This is more towards the sign that references the movie. You can see these were all pieces of the set. But look at the piles of it. Just everywhere. This was a huge movie set. Now the placard's right over here. It looks like they redid it because it was kind of faded last time. But that, what we were looking at on the ground was that right there. That's the movie set. That's why there's so much of it. Now that I look at it, right here, looks like that might be where that entrance was that we were talking about, and all of that movie set left on the ground right here, but also pushed over that wall as well. But it just looks like an old adobe style fort. And that's what remains. It was called the Mexican Village. It was a tan stucco wire, and that's the only thing that survived. So that was the Mexican Village for They Came to Cordura. There you go. And that was, gosh, I guess Columbia Pictures brought the ghost town of Harrisburg to life for a short period of time in the spring of 1958 when it was filmed by director Robert Rossen, R-O-S-S-E-N, right here in Harrisburg Ghost Town. Fun fact. Well, that's going to do it for today. I am standing right here where the set for Cordura is behind us, and also the McMullen farm off to the right on what used to be, of course, Harrisburg, Utah. Now Harrisburg Ghost Town, and we hope you enjoyed this adventure as much as we did, as we found out a tremendous amount of facts about the area, and we had a great time. Beautiful, beautiful day, moderate temperatures, finally. We'll see you in the next one.